Hungry Reader here. It's December 7th, and time for more Not a Creature Was Stirring. If you're like me, and pretty much everyone else who ever read a young adult novel in their lives, you know Beverly Cleary. She basically created the young adult genre back in the 50s. Over a career that spanned over 40 years, Beverly Cleary created beloved characters like Beezus and Ramona and Henry and Ribsy, but one of the first ones to ever make it off the page and onto the screen was Ralph. Although it was written in 1965, almost 50 years old, it tells an almost timeless story of trust and friendship. There are two families staying in room 215 of the Mountain View Inn. I almost called it the Mountain Dew Inn. That would be a little more extreme. One of the families is Mr. and Mrs. Gridley and their young son Keith, who has a deep love for toy cars. The other is the Mouse family, the youngest of whom is Ralph. And Ralph did not have an appreciation of toy cars until he saw Keith. Brrrr, went the boy. To the mouse, the sound spoke of highways and speed, of distance and danger, and whiskers blown back by the wind. Ralph so falls in love with Keith's toy motorcycle that as soon as the boy leaves the room for dinner, Ralph climbs up on the nightstand to play with it and immediately drives it off into the wastebasket. Tell me, did you or didn't you ride my motorcycle off the bedside table?
Well, yes, I guess you might say I did.
I thought so. Neither the mouse nor the boy was the least bit surprised that each could understand the other. Two creatures who shared a love for motorcycles naturally spoke the same language. Really? This could revolutionize Rosetta Stone! The boy and the mouse strike up a friendship, and Keith lets Ralph ride on his motorcycle. Now you might be wondering, what does he do? Does he scoot it along? No, it's very simple. You have to make a noise. These cars don't go unless you make a noise. I know this is only a fantasy, but can you imagine a world where that worked? A world where everything was driven by sound effects. A world where Dave Coulier and Michael Winslow were the OPEC. Unfortunately, Ralph's newfound love of freedom riding the motorcycle all over the hotel finally draws attention to the fact that there's mice living there at all. Worse yet, a narrow escape from a vacuum cleaner leads Ralph to have to abandon the motorcycle. I guess I should have known you weren't old enough to be trusted with a motorcycle. The boy could not have said anything that would hurt Ralph more. Did you ever have a friend that you lost over something menial? Like you came over to their house and you accidentally broke a toy and they were like, "That's it, we're not friends anymore," and you never spoke again? Thankfully, this book is bigger than that. Keith is disappointed, but he's still friends with Ralph, and because the mice are now in trouble, he starts bringing them food, just so they don't have to go out and be seen. But this arrangement is put into danger when Keith falls sick and can no longer leave his bed. Ralph must do something unthinkable for mice. Get an aspirin. See, Ralph's family are all terrified of aspirin tablets because Ralph's father picked one up, stuffed it in a cheek pouch, where it dissolved and killed him. But Keith has such a high fever that Ralph has to go, without the motorcycle, deep into the bowels of the hotel to seek out an aspirin for him. Of course, this was 1965. If it were today, we'd be like, no, Rise syndrome! An unexpected amount of help comes from Matt, the elderly handyman, who always had a certain liking for mice. It's Matt who recovers the motorcycle from the laundry and gives it back to Keith. But Keith, feeling much better now that he's had mouse poison, is so grateful he lets Ralph keep the motorcycle. Keith also wants to keep Ralph, but that's just not really an option. It's interesting to think about blurring the lines between pets and friends that way. Could someone really be your pet if they could speak to you in your own language and you weren't just interpreting? On the other hand, a friendship could be badly strained if a friend was as entirely dependent upon you as your pets are. The Mouse and the Motorcycle was the subject of a made-for-TV movie in the 70s. It made innovative use of forced perspective, puppetry, and stop motion. My only problem with it is that they had to really fudge the mouse anatomy to make them ride the motorcycles. Look at Ralph, he looks like an orangutan! On the other hand, I'm sure a lot of people would want to see a movie called The Orangutan and the Motorcycle, especially if Clint Eastwood was in it.